La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
You know what day it is? Inner Wealth Podcast. Meditate and give. So manifest the greater this. And things all good cause I say it is. Invest in your inner wealth. Real generational wealth is mental health. It's an inside game, no toxicity. Let's talk and more listening. Ladies and gentlemen, and now introducing David McCullar, founder of Inception, the first mental health gym.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Inner Wealth Podcast. And I would like to say, what up, doe? Today, I want to really talk about the inner city. A lot of people know that I grew up in Detroit. I like to always state that, and I like to always talk about the good experience I had growing up in Detroit, because it's always been like this topic of like Detroit is just like this hellhole to live in, but there's some very powerful people. It's a very influential people and some really great communities inside of Detroit. And, you know, just like every other city that I've been to, there's so not so good sides of the city that can need some support and some help. So I want to talk about being able to change that narrative and bring more support to areas that are, you know, underdeserved, under-supported. And to do so, I want to bring a guy on who's, since I met him, I've done nothing but see him in the city working every day, never asked for anything, always there, always helpful, and always doing the right thing. So I want to bring my brother Screal on. What up, Screal? What up,
Peace.
though?
What's going on, D?
Man, so again, that conversation, you spend a lot of time within the inner city of Detroit. First of all, what made you do that? Why do you want to do that?
First of all, you know, like I'm not from Detroit. You know, I'm from Inkster, so I'm from a smaller black community right outside of Detroit. But understanding the dynamics and the culture base of where I come from, and that helped Detroit grow and get pushed forward. When I moved to Detroit at 19, I got into the party promoting game, you know, working at Comcast, you know, networking, you know. So everybody I knew growing up from either, you know, hooking up their cable or throwing parties in the nightlife scene. What got me really involved was just seeing like the turn of history, like inside of our era, with Trayvon Martin happening all around the world, and just knowing the dynamics of what, you know, blossomed in Detroit from, you know, being pro-black, from the Nation of Islam, to the workers unions, and just everything, you know, historically. So like around that time, it was just a lot of stuff going on. People was very traumatized mentally, you know, being stressed out from work environments, and it was the wave of the entrepreneurships. And you just looked around the city of Detroit, and it was like, what have we been doing this whole time? You know, people getting money, but what have we did for our city, for our community, for the future? And we was just really waiting for somebody to do it for us. So it really just, you know, ignited me to try to link up with like-minded individuals and change our community and our circumstances around and just get involved heavily in the community.
So you said the word stressors and trauma. When did you have the understanding that that was an issue within our community?
I had that understanding at a young age, honestly. At 20 years old, I witnessed my best friend get murdered right in my face.
Wow.
So I lost my job. You know, I went through a whole depression stage. But as we talk about fight, flight, or freeze, you know, well, fight or flight, you know, you introduced me to the word freeze, the third stage that people don't talk about. And I was in freeze mode. Like, I didn't run. I didn't fight back. I just stood there and just was like, what the fuck? What happened? You know, and my family didn't talk about mental health therapies or anything like that. They just said, you need to get back to work. And I just sat there like I just almost lost my life. I lost my best friend. But I understood that a lot of us deal with trauma, and I can't hold that against them. But I did freeze and I just went back to work. I didn't heal. I didn't go through the process until about 25, 26.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was like, you know what? I'm trying to grow as a man, and I'm trying to be a better person. So I need to deal with my stuff, and heal myself. So I took that upon my own initiative to, go through the barriers, deal with everything that, needed to be dealt with. But through that process, I noticed that a lot of people didn't want to accept their traumas, and, I don't hold that against them, but I just definitely had to continue to push my journey forward and just lead by example.
Yeah. So what led you to get with New Era? A lot of people don't know this. You can even tell us what is New Era
Yeah.
and how you got involved with that.
So New Era is the fastest growing pro-black organization in the country. We
Mhm.
started off in Detroit in 2014. I got around like late 2014. I met my brother Zeke at Northland Mall. I was still working at Comcast,
Mm.
and my cousin he owns Press Play, which is like an entertainment media. He did all the press ups for all the local artists. They'd come through and get their CDs not duplicated, pressed up and printed to sell. So I used to go up there on my lunch breaks and help him out sometimes, or just chill at Northland because I worked in Southfield on my lunch breaks. And Zeke used to come up and get his MP3 player added on music. And like I just was talking about the community, like how things need to change. I remember a couple of my brothers was up there, Dre, Helliva, everybody was up there, and we just talking and just talking about things that need to be changed. And Zeke overheard my conversation and was just like, "Hey, you need to come out. You
Mhm.
should come out to the organization." And I'm like, yeah, okay." Like,
Right.
I'm thinking it's just talk. So it took me about a good 3 months. I think the summertime I had came out, but what really got me over there is because I'm heavy. When I was going through that journey before I even met you, I used to meditate real heavy. I used to do it by running and jogging throughout the city of Detroit.
Hmm.
And when I say I don't like the gym, I need to see my environment because I want to see what I need to change inside of myself, but out on the outside of myself too. So I used to run up and down 7 Mile Greenfield. I used to do about 2 to 3 miles and then run around Belle Isle because I love water too. So but every time I used to do these things, Zeke used to call my phone, and I'd be like, "Why does this dude keep calling my phone when I'm meditating and running?" So it took me about like 2 months to come around, and when I came around, it was like, this is everything that I've been talking about, what I'm meditating about, and I see the elevation that this can go too. So I was full-fledged in right from I started. We was in Chandler Park area. That was our first hood to hood I joined in on.
So what are some of the things that New Era does in the community?
A lot of things. We do a lot of community engagement, but we really focused on the youth, women, and children. And as men, it originated starting off as a men organization back in 2014, but that didn't last long at all. A lot of men wasn't ready, and able to step up in that type of magnitude. So a lot of women, joined in and started volunteering with us. And as we seen, we was like, you know what, we can't move like this. We need to make sure that if we're talking about the black family, we really need to move like a black family. So from there you will see a lot of men in the front line, but behind the scenes the women is the backbone of the movement. Actually, the nucleus, of the movement and everything. But we do hood to hood engagements, black to reality, getting back into the school system, and mentoring the children. We do safety programs, Streets is Watching program, safe zones with the black-owned businesses. We focus on entrepreneurship, just the all-around thing. Now, the biggest thing is the youth. So, young entrepreneurs and stuff, leading them the way. But it's really just getting active and involved inside of your community in any way possible that we need to be, as pillars of our community. So making it a lifestyle.
Yeah. So and two, when we hear the word hood, we always know that from our culture we call it the hood. No matter where you live, you can also call it the hood. Doesn't mean good or bad. It's just, hey, it's in my hood, right? But there's one thing that's in the hood that you notice, that when people get money, right, what do they typically try to do?
Boss up, flex.
Well, they try to, let's say you're an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
They leave the hood.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely gonna leave the hood.
But my thing is, why are we leaving the hood? We leave the hood because there's typically a lack of safety in the hood,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And when you have a lack of safety in neighborhoods or a lack of safety in the hood, what are we really saying? It's not in the houses. The houses are inanimate objects. It's the people.
Mm-hmm.
So what's in the people? And let's go back to what we talked about. You witnessed something traumatic and how that event, shaped you, that trauma shaped you. Now it shuts you down internally where you don't feel safe. So after you experience that event, you shut down, went into freeze, your body does it, right? We know that it's an automatic thing. It's not a sense of weakness or anything like that. It's just the body's automatic response to say, hey, Screal, this is the best way for us to deal with this threat right now.
Mm-hmm.
And within in our hoods, what we have is a lack of safety. It seems externally, but really we have a lack of safety internally. So once you start to learn about fight, flight, freeze, how has that shaped you and how you view in helping the inner city now?
And it actually helped a lot because I can understand a lot of people's circumstances. Before I just shut down and just like move away. But now like I know that sometimes I can't be a front support for the individuals. You know what I'm saying? Especially that people that's going through those traumatic experiences or had traumatic experiences. Sometimes I just need to be behind, and when they do fall, they didn't even know I was back there to say, "Come on."
Mm-hmm.
So it helps me articulate and actually give me the ability to communicate way better than before, especially
Mm-hmm.
understanding what freeze is, because a lot of us are in freeze. And because the system say fight or flight and never told us about freeze, we still trying to compartmentalize what we're in, and we can't even relate to either one of those. So we like, ain't nothing wrong with me.
Right.
But when you brought up the freeze, I was like, I can relate to this. I
Mm-hmm.
ain't trying to fight this person, but I'm going to defend myself.
Right.
And I ain't going to run, but if I have to, I'm going to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm in freeze, I'm just sitting there and people just smacking you every day,
Right.
even in your work environment. You getting pressured and smacked every day, and you like, oh well.
Yeah. I think the freeze aspect allows you to be it can allow you to be very passive too. And the passiveness is not about, again, lack of desire to do something about it. It's just that you feel immobilized, you know?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's what freeze is. So fight flight is about mobilization.
Yeah.
Let me get out of dodge, right? Let me fight. Immobilization is freeze, where you just like you feel shut down and you literally feel frozen.
Yeah.
So when we see even violence in our neighborhoods, and you can talk about that too, even with the like new era, it's like a lot of people know something that happened, but they feel frozen and helpless to it, that they can't even tell you. We want to call it no snitching. It's not really even about no snitching. It's about immobilization.
Yeah.
Like I feel helpless. Like I can't share anything or do anything.
Yeah.
You
A lot of people feel like that inside the community, and you broke it down. You articulated it very well, because even like a turn of the community now operating in it, right? A lot of people feel that as being one of the blackest city in America, that we can't do it. And that deals with the trauma aspects of previous administrations or previous people they knew, personally. So they just froze like, well, I can't do it. And that goes back to when I kept seeing the community, what was going on in the community. Nobody was cleaning up the community. Nobody was doing the wellness checks on the neighbors, the elders. You know what I'm saying? Like they was just froze. And well, who's gonna do it? Because I can't do this. It wasn't no impact
Right.
to mobilize inside of our communities, and because our community is frozen right now, so the biggest thing is the unfreeze, and that was us controlling our narrative of getting out here into the community, organizing, reaching out, helping elders, just the whole reprogramming mindset through media, but not just utilizing the media, people actually seeing this on a consistent basis.
Right.
The media is one thing to record and stuff like this, this, but we don't do this for cameras. You know what I'm saying? We do this to document the history of what we have accomplished. But really, you're going to see New Era or any organization or myself out there consistently. You know what I'm saying? If when you see them consistently, they about their stuff. They really about the reprogramming, the wellness, the mental aspect of things. But it takes a lot, because I know we're going to pivot, but it takes a lot, because then what about our well-being? You know what I'm saying? That was one big thing with, you giving me the opportunity to do things, because I do a lot for a lot of people, but a lot of people, it's only one person that actually brought me to Inception. He always say, when you got to do something for you.
Right.
My homeboy Dez, Kid Clever,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, bro, you got to do something for you. When are you going to you do stuff for everybody, but when are you going to do something for you? And I was like, dang, I ain't never think about that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
I'm doing this for me, because I get the satisfaction of doing this. It makes me feel good because I'm changing my environment around. But
Right.
when would I change the inner
Yeah.
around?
Who's investing in you?
Yeah.
And the only person who really can truly invest in you daily is you, right? But then what does that mean? And so that's why when you came to us, it's just like, well, this is a systematic way to begin doing that. There's other pieces to it. We know that, right? But this is a systematic way to get your resources back internally. And we just talked off camera about how I felt like our issue, and I've said it on a different podcast, like our issues aren't monetary. Our issues aren't educational. Like we walk around with a phone that has unlimited information, right? But if you can't process and integrate that information, then information is useless. So when you first came to us, I remember we both did like 30 days of brain training.
Yeah, you challenged me to that, and I do well with challenges, but he was like, I challenge you to a 30-day. That's how I felt. You didn't say those exact words, but that's how I felt when you was like, you should. How long you been here? You been coming how long? I was like, I think 5 days. You was like, 5 days? I'm about to do 30. And that just, I'm a competitor in my
Yeah.
spirit, so I'm like, can I do 30 with you? You like, okay. And I was in there 30 days, brain. That changed my life. When I say it changed the whole perspective. It felt like I was in the clouds. Like space time, it was, my whole reality shifted to the point where, like you said, the safety that I put up and the freeze, like to be frozen and be safe, it allowed me to see the resources that I truly had right there. I had a lot of resources that was out in the community, but I did not know how to utilize them because I couldn't surpass safety.
Yeah. Well, your brain and your body is using its resources for safety, not to rationally think.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of young boys in school where we label them as ADHD and all these other labels, or learning disabled, when truthfully they're just traumatized and they don't have their resources to think. It's the same way with the neighborhoods. We all can go make money. Like, we know our people. If we want to go make some money, we'll figure out a way to make some money or to get something but we typically do that to try to self-soothe versus really trying to go after the real resources, which is, again, I always point to the kingdom. The kingdom is right here. Definitely. It's unlimited resources here. But if those resources is used to fight threat, then, hey, you're not going to be able to be resourceful. So now that you went and you came and you did that brain training and you got those resources back, how did that change to, one, you regulated your nervous system. How did that change you going into the neighborhoods and how you start to interact with people from that moment forward?
Yeah, I mean, it changed. Again, it changed a lot, because that goes into the fight, flight, or freeze, because that's when I found out, like, all that stuff, right? So it took me, when I went into the neighborhood, I'm like, I wanted to, it's just like the kid that learned something new, you know what I'm saying? So you going into the neighborhood trying to share what you learning, but now you're seeing who you were at that time. You know what I'm saying? So I'll start looking in the mirror to a lot of people, but it gave me the opportunity to overstand it and not shut people down because they're not there yet. You know, so
Yeah.
usually, you know, when you do get, like you said, financial or monetary things, you know what I'm saying, but you're not going through the healing aspect, people don't got that. Oh, you don't got this? Oh, yeah, I got it though.
Right.
I didn't come with that ego anymore because
Yeah.
I could see the child in any person. I don't care if it was if it was an elder, I can still see the child in that elder or that process, you know, of them going through their journeys. So it just gave me the ability to see outside the scopes of the reality aspects of people and my whole environment by doing that.
It gave you more empathy
More empathy, yeah,
and more understanding.
exactly.
Right. And then like that when you're stuck in whatever these defense patterns are, is fear. They're all fear based, first of all. But fear leads to scarcity.
Mm,
That's why we can look at each other and see you have something. If you have something that I don't have, I feel less than, or they're scarce. Like I can't have it.
hmm
Like there's enough for all of us,
Yeah.
but you can't see that if you stuck in fear,
hmm
right? So the importance of this whole even conversation and you being an advocate within an inner city and working with nonprofits, it's like, well, the nonprofits are supposedly going into the city to help us, right? But if you don't have your resources and you're a part of that team, then what are you really doing?
Yep.
What
Yeah.
are we really doing, man?
Going in a circle, honestly. You know what I'm saying? That's how I truly see it. But that's what led me into the nonprofits, you know, where I'm at Force Detroit, building up a coalition of grassroots community leaders organizations, you know, within Detroit to advocate together, you know, and hold these foundations and funders accountable to give them to trickle those resources down, you know, because, you know, growing up, like we never really seen true community do things. Well, growing up, I did see true community, you know, from Inkster. We had a lot of community-based organizations out there, Seed to Feed, all those organizations like did stuff for the youth. But it was a generational gap once I got into my teenage years and young adult years in Detroit. We didn't really see that. You know, we seen the street guys, you know what I'm saying, buy the ice cream trucks out and stuff like that. But real like community organizations that's trying to change around, it was really about the glitz and the glam, you know, rather than the bam, like the change, you know.
Right.
So that's where all that just trickled down to, you know, like getting
Yeah.
involved in the nonprofits and holding them accountable to get that money down. But just working as a collective, like you said, like that trauma, that empathy, like it's gonna take people to go through their self-healing journeys, no matter if you are the leader, if you are the volunteer. You know, I feel that everybody is a leader. Everybody is a leader. You might not be the teacher at the moment of the you know, for the leader or for the student, but every ultimate teacher is a student and a teacher at the same time. A
Yeah.
lot of people look up to me, but I look up to a lot of people that look up at me because
Absolutely.
I'm all like that gave me the ability to know that I'm always gonna be in a learning mindset because my safety measures then went down, my safety mechanism went down. So now I go into a space to learn. No matter what interaction, like even today, I went into this space even to learn, rather than I'm going into a space when you go to the club or something. You go into this space, you're like, man, I just hope nothing don't happen. You know, oh man, why this person looking at me? They already went to a defense, a safety mechanism,
Yeah.
into an environment that you supposed to be just relaxed.
Right. So now you can't learn.
You can't learn anything
Right.
when you in that. So now when I'm in spaces, a lot of people be like, "Why you be moving around and you over here talking to this person? You over here?"
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Because now you open.
Yeah,
Now you can give and you can receive. Before you might have just been trying to give.
Oh, I would have been a wallflower.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, before
Yeah.
I would have been a wallflower. I just been sitting there looking around because at one point in time I was in deep depression. I know I was. You know, heavy smoking. You know, I don't even smoke. But once I kicked it because I knew I didn't want to have a habit. You know, I wanted to eliminate the habits. A lot of us look at different things. Like one of my habits now, though, and we talked about it for years, like video games. And we was talking about the traumatic experience. Like when I'm having a stressful day, my thing is like I come to Inception, but I like playing a video game. I like playing Call of Duty to shoot people. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to, shoot at my people. Like, we talk about the guns and different things like that. Sometimes I go to the gun range, but my therapeutic things is to interact with my friends that, we probably can't see each other, physically, or we haven't seen each other in years. They moved away. So we played a video game, you know what I'm saying? Which,
Yeah.
is another form of therapy for me. But when we look at it the different ways, the things that we do play, the programming that is in the video games
Yeah.
that we talked about,
Right.
that made me even look at that different. So I kind of like stepped back from, I used to play the game every night. Now I play it probably every other week.
Yeah.
You know?
You can't, I'm into it. I play it with my dad. That's our bond.
Yeah.
That's me and my dad's bond, is to play a game. And then there's this conversation like, oh, you can't play video games and be successful. It's like, what are you talking about? There's dudes making millions playing Fortnite. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Everything that I do does not need to be something productive,
Right.
or monetary. Some things I just need to enjoy my life, and I think a lot of things need to be that way. And our community, this grind culture, everything's just grind, and no play.
Yeah.
Like, that's not cool. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But at the same time, I also know that there's a limit. Like, I'll sit and I'll play with my dad. I'm like, I'm done. He like, I'm done too. And we not play for 3, 4, 5 days later, right?
Yeah.
But it's having the level of awareness, to know what everything in moderation,
Yeah, definitely.
And now let's even go into, I didn't even think about this, but let's talk about marijuana.
Yeah.
And that's how alcohol has been in the neighborhoods for a long time, but now marijuana is starting to be in it, and I'm a proponent of it,
Likewise.
But the problem is, again, listen, all this stuff is resources. Marijuana, alcohol, whatever you want to, psilocybin, that's a whole nother conversation with psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't bad or good things. They're not. Guns aren't bad. They don't hold a positive or negative. Now, the person who uses it and their resourcefulness within is going to determine how effective that tool is.
Yep.
So in the hands we now have, we're pumping marijuana is about to become very prominent. It was already prominent in our culture, but even more so because it's legalized, right?
Yep.
And now when you got the unhealed person and you give them resources or access to something that they can now, they haven't learned how to self-soothe. So what's the way that they're now going to just over-abuse something?
Yep.
So what are you starting to see in the neighborhoods from this access to it like that?
I mean, the access is crazy right now. It always have been crazy access to it, honestly.
Yeah.
But because of the perception of it and the media push, for everything, now it's coming to a lot of people perspectives or perception. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's coming to their realities now. It's like when we was kids, things that was around, we didn't understand it. But when we got older, we like, dang, we seen this all the time. I just didn't know what it was.
Right.
So that's what marijuana is coming to. But like, even in the marijuana industry, we're doing something at nonprofit at outside of, like, within Force Detroit. It's called Clean Smoke for returning citizens and people that's incarcerated that on marijuana charges, to get their records expunged, because we know the industry has tremendously, like, shift and change, and it's about to be a $1 trillion industry.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make sure that we're not we're not still the abusers inside this industry also, but we are the profitable people, because we done got incarcerated through all these things. So it's different levels on it, but a lot of people are still coping with it. I really feel that a lot of people aren't coping as much these last 2 years with it, because the influx of stories and medias of the synthetic drugs of it rather than the natural. So a lot of people are now educating themselves on the type of marijuanas, the sativa, the indicas, the hybrids. A lot of people are only dealing with private growers and stuff like that. But the younger generation, what I'm saying, like, they don't know those things because they're not educated on those things. It's like, if we get educated on it and told this is this, instead of saying, don't do this, don't do that, that's going to make us go do it.
Yeah.
We talk about even in our coalition, we got a gun club, and we do gun violence work. And they're a Black Bottom Gun Club, and they want to put gun education and safety inside schools, like as a curriculum. Don't tell your children don't do these things. It's just like sex. When we talked about sex, we talked about like that made people,
Want to go
especially young.
do it more.
Yeah, I wanted to go have sex. You telling me don't do it? I want to
Right.
see why you telling me don't do this, instead of truly educating me, instead of trying to implement fear.
Yeah.
If
If you're in your home and your parents have like a box in the corner and say, don't ever go into that box, what are you going to want to do? You want to go into the box, right? What is in there?
Yeah.
Like, you're just curiosity, right? So that makes sense. But the education definitely on how to use these things. If it's legal, like to drive a car, you go learn how to use it properly, right? And there are accidents, right? There is, resourceful ways to drive a car and unresourceful ways to drive a car. So with the marijuana, I talked to Wendy Muhammad. Wendy Muhammad is actually one of the first Black women who has a hospital in Washington. And when I talked to Wendy, I asked her, I said, well, what are your main type of patients, the demographics? Like, what are you seeing? She said, they're young people. I said, young people? Well, what are they dealing with? She said, blood clotting. I said, blood clotting from what? She said, from the marijuana, from the synthetic forms, high THC. So yes, it's slowing the blood down. That people want stuff and they want to smoke and they just want to be high as a kite, like from one hit, whatever I can get there. So that goes back down to the thing too of self-soothing, and then too we know our bodies actually it becomes gets a tolerance to it. So the more you smoke, the higher amounts and the more you're going to need to smoke to try to get to that same place, that same high you were at before. But I think we need to understand that that's medicinal. Yeah. You don't take drugs daily. You don't want to do that. You wouldn't want to take a pharmaceutical daily.
No.
So why would you want to smoke daily? Like, what's the real issue that's plaguing us?
Exactly.
That we need to get to.
Exactly.
And the more we can get to that, the more those things become what they really are. Just a resourceful way to try to, maybe my body is tense and this is a quick way I can get my body to relax. But not when you're waking and baking.
Yeah.
When you waking and baking, you got some real issues.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do.
As soon as you roll out the bed, you anxious.
Yeah.
You
do. And that's the thing, like those like the biggest thing is, as far as with the inner city, is figuring out, not even like figuring it out, because they're like the resources is already here, you know what I'm saying, with inside the inner city. Like when I first came to Inception, like it wasn't that many Black people, just to be honest.
it wasn't.
But now in the last 2 to 3 years, like the influx of like the city and just people coming, it's like, if you build it, they will come.
Well, one, you had a big part in that, so I appreciate what you did, and you were always bringing people in. I gave you the keys, and I didn't even have to push you. You were just always up there. I got this person up there. I got that person, and they were just all getting educated because these tools exist.
Yeah,
they exist in the white world. They don't exist in the minority world, and they damn sure don't exist in the Black world.
No.
So they come into there. And they're getting a quantum leap of what's possible.
Yeah.
They may not know how stuff works yet. Once we can understand how those tools work, and you can understand not just how those tools work, how we work.
Yeah.
Because we talk about fight, flight, freeze. That's a conversation we keep talking about. And even you started doing our inner fitness program with David Berselli.
Yeah.
And understanding trauma release.
That changed my life, Dave. That changed my life. That was the next level. Like that's and then we did the actual community event for the community.
Yeah.
After I experienced it, we was like, hey, how can we get this to the inner city? I'm like, let's just link up. We do New Era hosted, and we get people to come out and do trauma release, TRE, you know?
Yeah.
And that changed, like, once I do that. Like, I still do trauma release. If I don't go into Inception or something is going on, it's, you know, my form of yoga.
You have your naturally encoded way to discharge trauma. And that's the one thing. Yes, Inception is a business, but the business is there to be a conscious entity to teach you how to deal with your vessel. You know, so that if you're not at Inception, you ain't gotta run. I gotta get somewhere and get into these services. No, you have a resource internally that you can use if you're in a jungle.
Yeah.
Because that's our natural way of discharging energy, right?
Yep.
So I know that, you know, we're still on just the first level of this. And what we do together, we'll be able to bring more and more of what we do into the inner city to provide people with the tools to regulate the nervous system, and then we can co-regulate with each other. I think that by you coming in and doing that work, again, as a community activist, it allows you to go out into the community and not have to be on defense. Yeah, you need to be like Ra's al Ghul. When you talk Batman, mind your surroundings, right? That ain't gonna stop. I don't care where I'm at, bro. I can be at Disney World and I'm minding my surroundings. I'm not overly active and overly minding my surroundings, but I am aware of what's going on. That's just nature as a man, right? You know, hunter-gatherers. We're going to go out and we're going to scope and we're going to see where it's threatening the environment and do our thing. So, but when you come now to the community, they're like, dang, that's Screal. Like, that's a totally different energy than anybody else. Why? Because he's doing his work. And that's what I'm saying. Like, community activists, like, you gave access to a lot of people to come in and do the work, and they didn't show up. And it's like, so really, what do y'all want to do? You can't expect the hood to heal if you're not healing. So that's the thing. That's what we're trying to get more people to understand, and that's number one. That's number one.
But I think that a lot of people don't like. You use a specific terminology when you speak to like resources, right? Like I got to visit, you know, traveling, opening up different chapters, you know, across the country, a lot of different Black communities. You know what I'm saying? I get to see a lot how people live. Like I think me being you know, working in telecommunications, being a technician, residential technician, I was able to see how people lived. You know what I'm saying? I was able to see how people mindset was, and then, you know, not judging anybody because everybody priorities isn't the same, but like seeing people priorities. You know, sometimes I go in like, you order cable, but what? You know, but not judging, but it really made me reflect on making sure that my stuff is together also.
Priorities.
Yeah, priority, right. But I met a person in Oakland, California, my homeboy Jabari that does, you know, nonprofit, and actually kind of like, you know, coming from the streets, and was kind of like planted the seed for me to get into that field, to get the resources back down, because I come at with a different energy. But he was like, man, I still could have been caught up in the streets and did a lot of different things. But one thing that I had to learn is that I'm a carpenter by like spirit. Like, everybody likes to create and build things, right? We all creators. And he had a tool belt, but he kept using a hammer for everything. So like, he was like, all I had was a hammer. You know, that's what he identified, like moving the bag, shaking the bag. And he was trying to go to other realms and levels in life, but he just kept using a hammer. He was like, I couldn't unscrew the door. I couldn't, you know, lift up the panel or anything like that. So he started looking at all the other things that he was connected to like getting involved in as other tools for his tool belt. You know, once I started looking at my life and the things that I'm attached to as assistance to my tool belt. So all these things are tools. Me being a part of New Era Detroit, me being a part of Force Detroit, me helping with the Clean Smoke, being a part of Inception. Like, I'm Screal, but this is my tool belt.
That's your tool belt, yeah.
So now I have all these tools. So when I do interact with someone, you know, now my new venture is spirits, black spirits, alcohol. So now I'm part of a spirits company. We have a champagne. I know my people like to indulge in this, right? So I'm going to be a seller of this. But the backstory is this is all about social justice and changing who you are. I want you to still drink responsibly, but I'm going to do the proper nourishments the way that this needs to be created for you to feel good or properly be good, because we talked about marijuana earlier. Now we got everybody in this industry and it's like synthetic. No one is doing it the natural way, or
Yeah.
they're trying to mass produce these things. So now we're equipped in our tool belts with all these different things. A lot of people need to look at their tool belts and equip them with multiple tools and look at those to assist them to build up their natural state where now we're going into grounding, where we're
Right.
grounded in. I'm grounded with inside a community.
Mhm.
That's where I sit. So now all these things that are a part of my tool belt, all my tools are helping people to identify where they're grounded in and to should assist their tool belts so they can elevate and go
Yeah.
higher too.
Yeah. Well, you just kept adding value to yourself
Yeah.
to be a person of who's resourceful. You have many different, and that's the same thing. That's all that, Inception is.
Yeah.
It's a resource, and we have different things. Sometimes you can go to a place and they only got one thing. Well,
Yeah.
we looking at the whole system, and we just want to be completely integrated. And and that's why we integrate with you.
Yeah.
And other nonprofits who you try to bring to us. But be honest too, a lot of times that you have nonprofits who want to come and integrate with us, but they're not really together to do that. They're not together to do that integration. Like people, we need all Inceptions in the hood, but not everywhere is ready.
Yeah.
And so talk about that from that standpoint, being in the city and you know what they need. So what are you experiencing? You know what they need, but they won't do what they need.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Like we always say, the closest people to the problem is the closest to the solution. Right. So when we go into the communities, that's not, of our community, we be like, you got the answers. Like we come in here to assist you to push your narrative forward. What do you want to see done? That's I got involved with Own Your Story. Like own your story.
Yeah.
Push your narrative forward. Like we just want to assist you push your narrative forward. We have boundaries and safety measures. So if we go far, no, let's go back this way. We're going way too far out the spectrum because we still want to go on this path to this healing journey to get the community of progression. But a lot of people, a lot of communities don't see it because they're still in freeze.
They're still shut down.
It's even somebody coming in. It's a safety.
Yeah.
Like you from outside. I literally went out of town and seen something so great. I had an experience. I went out of town and seen something so great because I seen a lot of Black excellence happening in one community particularly. And I was out there, and this is a majority white community, but the Black community is able to really move throughout that community effectively.
In a white community. Wow, how do they do that?
Just they're really coming to they have their I call them hot pockets, of people that are opening the doors. But it's a lot of pocket of people that don't want them doors to be open or think that those people shouldn't have been able to open those doors. They should have opened the door. So I had an altercation where I went to a brother and was like, bro, y'all got something great going on here. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all can really change the whole circumstance and perspective of your community and then make that as an example for other communities. I say, bro, I'm from Detroit. I'm from Inkster, but I'm from Detroit. I stay in Detroit. Like I'm telling him this. Right when I said that, he shut me down. Cause at first he was listening. I'm like, you got something great. He like, what da, da, da. And then I, did a relatable, trying to, say, look, I'm from a place where we the blackest people, but we don't even got they won't even give us the ultimate resources in our community. They still hoarding the resources. The white people ain't even giving us all the resources like that inside the community because they don't think that we can handle those resources when we really can. And right when I said where I'm from, the safety measure hit because you're not from here. How are you going to tell me about this area? Because the relatableness doesn't come between experience anymore.
Mm.
It comes between territory now, because the cultural aspects in the people's eyes are different.
Mm.
But everybody, all our culture, we have a piece of everybody culture wherever we move. Detroit has its own culture,
Right.
but everywhere Detroit got a piece of that culture, and vice versa. Depending on what
Yeah.
type of realms that you operating in and how you operating, we have pieces of each other culture. So I was trying to come from a relatable approach, but because that safety measure, because of previous traumas, it shut me down. To the
So what he didn't want to, the person didn't want to give you access to what they were really doing,
Yeah.
how they were doing it, because you weren't from.
because I wasn't from it. Wasn't what they was doing. It was a confrontation to the point with me. I'm gonna go and evaluate a problem or a situation and be a solutionary to it, right?
Mm.
Especially if I'm in the environment, I'm gonna try to go over there. I'm not about to run away and let me stay away. No, what's going on?
Mm.
Because I'm still going through my healing journey. So I'm gonna approach the situation like, what's going on?
So you was trying to help.
I was trying to help and
Oh,
assist.
okay. He didn't want. He didn't want the help.
He didn't want the help and
from
assistance
there.
because I'm not from that area.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I heard that from Dr. David Berselli. We talked about the trauma release. He's been in war-torn countries where he tries to take trauma release into these countries, but if it's not presented to them in their culture, in their language, then they're not willing to accept it. They can't hear it. It's the same thing with now, again, we're talking about what we're talking about with fight, flight, freeze. I didn't make this stuff up.
No.
You know? I didn't come up with these tools. The difference is y'all relate to me, you know, because I look like y'all.
Yeah.
You know? And so now, since I look like you, I talk like you, or there's something relatable, I'm safe. And that safety now provides you the ability to be safe. And that's why you keep bringing in more people who resonate with that person.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some people come in that, like, what they doing in Inception? It's like Inception is open for everybody. I don't care where you from, drug dealer, stripper, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are just labels.
Yeah.
Who you are is a human being who has a central nervous system that can be shut down from trauma.
Yeah.
Right? And if you can start to work on that and get your resources back, if people really knew what we talking about right now, bro, they'd be lying. They'd be lying outside. Because people are like, I can get myself back.
Yeah.
I can get back to my treasure.
Yeah.
The hood would be running. But we scared of ourselves, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
We scared of our own power.
Yeah. That's why we put a lot of layers over a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? Like we docile our power by doing the things that we feel that will not empower us anymore. Because we can't, like you said, we can't even think outside of our true power of where we can go as a collective, or not even just as a person.
Right.
A lot of people can't really imagine where they can be or go as that person without seeing it.
Yeah.
They don't go inner to see it. They want to go outer.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like I went inner to see my power, to see what other people see. I didn't see what other people see of me. I knew something was powerful and great, but I had to go inner to go see it. And when I went inner, that's when I was like, wow, this is deep. Now I need to show people go inner.
Yeah.
Don't look outer. Because now I'm looking at you like, oh, you did, I can do it too.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we have an influx of, a lot of people is getting money now, right?
Yeah.
But everybody is opening up and doing the same exact thing that other people is doing. And I build with a lot of businesses in the city.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it specifically. What are we opening?
So, everybody is, first thing, natural. Everybody's gonna do a hair salon or a barbershop, right?
Right.
That was the first successful things
or
that
barbecue joint.
Or food or some type of food trucks, those things, right?
Yeah.
But I tell people like, why don't you, and it was one of my ideas. I talked to a lot of my business owners that own restaurants. And I said, this was about 4 years ago. I told one of my business owners, I said, Mushia Pasta Bowl in Detroit Taco Bar. I told her,
she came to Inception one time. Yeah.
I was like, Moo, would you support me if I open up, if I do my containers and storage, like containers and stuff, like get all your plastic wares, like your silverwares, you put plastic silverwares in everybody bags with the napkins. Like, what if I be your distributor for that?
Right.
Would you support it? She's like, yeah, Screal. I'll support it. But it was a thought. Like, I
Yeah.
just wanted, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I was thinking, like, everybody is doing something, but we don't compliment each other.
The thing is, we talk about buy black,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, for sure. But we don't make a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We don't produce a lot of stuff to buy black.
Yeah.
Right? And if you say buy black and you're not a manufacturer, you just go on Alibaba and now you just sourcing something and
Wholesale.
selling to me, that don't mean that's not your design. That's not something you created.
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk about from start to finish in the creation process.
Yeah.
And I want to know, look, not Elon, but what's his name? Bezos and what's the guy from Galactic Virgin? What's the guy who just went out to space? The other guy from Virgin.
The billion, he just,
Branson.
Yeah, Branson.
They're going to space.
Yeah.
We're behind. And we're behind because we don't have access to our internal resources to be creative enough to think outside of what we've been conditioned to believe. It's more than barbershops. It's more than nail salons. It's more than barbecue joints.
Mhm.
You know? Like, where are we with, why can't we create a spaceship?
Yeah.
Where are we in the longevity conversation? Because now I'm on the longevity tip that people don't even know about that I'm gonna bring to us soon, is understanding that disease is being known as that aging is a disease.
Yeah.
And we can counteract that. Right? So they're already on the conversation of living longer. We can't enter that conversation of living longer if we can't even live well in our present.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So why I'm gonna talk to you about living longer when you miserable in your own present moment? I'm gonna extend your misery.
Yeah.
You know? So these conversations of stuff, I'm always, I mean, we talking about virtual reality now too, starting to become a big thing. Like, where are we in the creation of things outside of what we used to? We can't get there until we do that inner work.
Yeah. Yeah, because all the resources is right there, like you said, that cell phone, man. That was the biggest thing. Once I came aware of my reality, the internet looked totally different to me.
Yeah.
Like it was like a movie. Like what was it? That kids movie. Something broke the internet. The big guy. All the kids watched the movie.
Oh, like Wreck-It Ralph or something? Yeah.
Rex
Wreck-It Ralph. Okay.
Wreck-It Ralph breaks the internet.
Yeah.
That wasn't the first one. Remember,
Okay.
it was him going into the game. But when he broke the internet, this came like I felt that years ago. Like the internet was just, I was Google searching so fast, and so I broke the internet to me. Like I'm like, what the heck?
Hey, listen, that goes on when I talk about from my other podcast on the breaking free from the trauma matrix, is that, you know, you come out like Neo and he started to sit there in that chair and learn karate, kung fu, all types of stuff that he wasn't even open to learning before.
Yeah.
Like, and I did the same thing. People say, David, what did you go to school? See, that's that old school thinking. Did you go to school for this?
Yeah.
What school?
Yeah.
What school did I go to for Inception, bro?
No,
What do you see?
It was that. Nah.
What school did I go to for that? There's no difference between me and anybody else other than that I was open to other information that nobody else was open to. We just like chemical imbalance versus psychological injury. We're still under the auspices that, you know, if you have depression, it's because of chemical imbalance in your brain, but no scientific studies have been able to validate that.
Validate that. Yep.
We're talking about trauma. We're talking about psychological injury. This is why we're depressed. Not because you just was born and something was wrong with you and you got this, all of a sudden, you just got this chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
And our culture is still too, oh, you know, you got diabetes. Oh, that just run in my family. No, look at your behaviors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that goes back to when you educated me on the experience of, you know, trauma starts with inside the womb.
Yeah.
You know, and I just started thinking about a lot of different things, and then just going through the birthing process down the, you know, the canal and stuff like that. So a lot of people that get diagnosed at a young age of these different things just had a traumatic experience through the creation process.
Yeah.
That, you know, even sometimes when, you know, adulting, if you're not healing through that, you can't even have a proper conversation with your child at a young age, and they're just gonna grow up, or you're just gonna put it inside that system.
Yeah.
that categorize them throughout the rest of their life or the process of that time being. So it's just definitely important, like going back to what you said, like we can't continue to lead with inside of our community if we don't go through our healing journey
Yeah,
ourselves in
because
our
it opens
process.
us all up
Yeah.
to
And
possibilities.
not saying I'm not even just saying like Inception is that part of that. Like just do it.
Just do it.
Just
Period.
do it. Like
No.
we're advocating for
Right.
you just to do
Yeah.
your healing journey.
Listen, man. Look, right now we can put 3,000 Inceptions inside of the United States, and it would still be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no competition when it comes to the mental health field. If there's competition, then we're mentally ill.
Yeah.
There's no competition towards, I want to heal you first. First of all, we don't heal you. You heal you. But if there was competition in that, that's a sickness in itself to even think like that.
Yeah.
To think that I'm your competition. Now, one thing I can't personally do is go and talk to everybody who want to open up something and teach all of you. I just don't have the energy to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You got to go on your own journey first. And a lot of times people want something with Inception that's, I want to build one or I want one. And a lot of times it's, when you get into this field, first of all, to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Once I start really healing myself, I start backing up and backing off. Like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Because you wasn't utilizing as a coping, like some
No.
things was coping mechanisms.
Some things was just me trying to, again, heal myself, right?
Yeah.
It's like I can't be codependent to everybody who needs healing work because then I would lose myself.
Yeah.
You would drain me dry if I allowed you to.
And that's very prominent of what you're speaking about, because a lot of people see me, with Inception and as me as a mental health advocate, right? But my mental health advocate is not me as a co-partner with you through your mental health things. I'm going to bring the tools and resources to you so you can go
do the work.
So if I'm not doing the things, why you didn't call me and check up on me?
Yeah.
Huh? I'm dealing with stuff too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm giving you resources. Like, look, I'm telling you,
Bro,
these
I had
are things
a lot
to
of
go
people
do.
during the pandemic. I can feel them
Yeah.
being upset at me in
Likewise.
Inception because, you remember, I forgot.
Yeah.
Because we were closed and nobody called me. But like I said, well, did y'all not think that we weren't going through the same thing with you?
Yeah.
Somebody told me, David, now's the time for you to get out there and talk. I said, no, now's the time for me to sit down and chill.
Yeah.
And because I've been doing that work for people for years. At that point in time, that was 13 and a half years. We going on 15 years now. It's like, well, what was y'all supporting me when I was going through talking about the same message? The pandemic was no more trauma. That was more trauma, but you were already traumatized.
Already.
And I'm out here like, y'all traumatized, y'all traumatized, y'all traumatized, y'all traumatized, y'all traumatized. Like speaking that message for years consistently, right?
Yeah.
That didn't just come out the blue. We've been talking about this. This has been an issue in our community. Go back to slavery.
Yeah.
Why, again, we talk about this off air, going to Africa. Why is it certain people in Africa, they can take certain resources that's in the environment and make the best of it, right?
Yeah.
Because they got different traumas than we do. Our programming, man, we were programmed not for safety.
Yeah.
I used to cross 8 Mile as a kid, and I remember I went to cross 8 Mile to go to Pizza Hut. And the lady there used to tell me and my boy Hakeem, she said, yeah, Warren police like little black boys.
Mm.
Like when you hearing that and you like 11, what is that telling you?
Yeah.
You ain't safe over here.
No, not at all. That's how I was growing up in, Inkster, going to Westland. You know what I'm saying? Like going to school systems out there and stuff like that. Like sometimes it was, my parents was mad that I walked home. But I'm a nature boy. Like if I miss the bus, I ain't. I'm kind of independent too. I try to be. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like I missed the bus, I'm not about to call my mom or my grandmother or my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like my grandfather, like anybody, my aunt. Like I'm not about to call them if I miss the bus, because I know that they got stuff to do too. You know what I'm saying? Either they're working. So I used to walk, from Westland to Inkster sometimes, like in middle school. Straight home. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I, had a bike out of the thin air. I had a bike.
Yeah.
but these are the things that just made me just go and do those things. Like, it wasn't no dependency of anything, because in that environment, I felt, in my environment of me, I felt safe. But they used to be mad at me because I didn't make a phone call, because they knew the environment. But with me being younger, I didn't know the environment.
Yeah.
But when I got older, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was walking through I could have just somebody right in front of their house and through the neighborhood snatched me up, whatever, because of the environment that was there. But now, like, that's why when we talk about the education, like, we need to really educate the youth, not scare them.
Right.
We try to put fear into the education for them not to do the things. If you just properly educate, give them the pros and the cons, let them evaluate the pros and the cons, and make their conscious decision themselves. We don't even allow ourselves to make the proper decisions because we feel that we are inadequate to even make the proper decision. And that goes into the safety mechanism. Some people don't feel safe themselves, so they're going to put fear in front of anything to make you feel safe.
Right. Yeah, that goes too. As a kid, I saw Emmett Till, in school. Like, you think about it, like, they were showing us stuff, and I think that they were trying to make us aware of certain things, but at the same time, in that awareness, that kind of like, at that young age, that can really make you afraid. Like, yo, don't whistle at a white woman. Yeah. You're not safe. Young black man, don't do this, don't do that. And so when you learn that, and I don't think that the younger generation aren't learning stuff like that like we learn. It gives them a lot more freedom to be versus, and then too, you can go into that don't wear a hoodie. Man, I wear a hoodie in my neighborhood all the time. Yeah. My neighborhood, I live in Southfield. It ain't like, there's a lot of black people in Southfield. Back in the day, it was not a lot of black people in Southfield. That was known as not for black people. Correct. Right? Yeah. Now Southfield is majority black. And so I wear a hoodie in my neighborhood, I see the police, I wave at them, they wave back. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't get just hit with the narrative all the time that one event makes it across the board as negative for all of us. Yeah. Those generalizations hurt you too. Yeah. And so that's where we go back down to the doing the inner work to understand the programming. You were programmed, right? Yeah. What did they program you with? And what's the truth? Yeah. Or what do you want as to be your truth? So
that goes, like, you brought up the hoodie aspect too, like with me staying in Detroit, you know what I'm saying? Like, the hoodie aspect of me wearing a hoodie as a young black man is totally different than the perspective of you residing with a hoodie in Southfield. Yeah. Because now if I'm going to the gas station, I got my hood on, it's a lot of places that say you got to remove your hood before you come inside the establishment. Mm-hmm. Because of the identification of a hoodie, right? How it's utilized is different. Like, why can't I wear my hoodie? Right. Because of this one incident, this person put on his hood and probably robbed the store. Yeah. Now I can't wear a hoodie. Right. So, like, why do they make hoodies? Right.
Like, hoodies weren't made and skull masks weren't made to rob stores. Yeah. They're just associated with those things. Yeah. But that's not the original intent. Like, a ski mask is for what? Skiing.
So now, like, even it goes even into the pandemic. Everybody got to wear a mask, right? Right. But before, you couldn't wear a mask in the store. Right. But now I can go in the store fully face covered. Right. And you don't have any problem. But if I don't have a mask on, you feel unsafe.
Man, the conditioning of us and how we're conditioned as human beings is what we're talking about. Yeah. And how do you, as an individual consciousness, navigate that? Yeah. And that's the understanding of being able to break that down. But first, again, we talk about, getting back to safety within, co-regulating. What we talk about in terms of inner city, I'm talking about inner city inside yourself. Yeah. Like, what makes up the inner city? People do. Yeah. People make up the inner city. So when people can find the inner safety, then you're going to find what? You're going to find the inner wealth, man. Yeah. Till next time, guys.
La, la, la. You've been listening to the Inner Wealth Podcast on EYL.
Get out the matrix and live.
Theme song produced by Be Ready for West Coast Creations. I am Razcast, reminding you to take action, be proactive, be congruent. Get out of the matrix, get your mind right. We've automated mental health at Inception. Join the movement.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
La 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 la.
Inner Wealth Podcast.
Get out the matrix and live.